Hi there. Before we roll on with this episode of the RVE podcast, here's a quick reminder that the RV Entrepreneur Workshop is taking place on September 12th during the Big RV Show in Hershey, Pennsylvania. This full day of networking, education, food, and fun will be followed by a live recording of this podcast with audience participation. That evening, enjoy dinner, drinks, and live music at the popular RV Life after party. Space is filling up quickly, so get more info and tickets at therventrepreneur.com. Many thanks to our amazing partners making these events possible, including Jayco, Cool RV, Open Road Resorts, Lithionics Battery, Air Skirts, RV TV, Open Roads Fuel Card, Clear 2O, Work Camper News, and more. Visit therventrepreneur.com for complete details and sign up today before tickets are gone. And now, on with the show.
Juggling two businesses while being on the road has been a little bit of a challenge. However, it's short-term pain, long-term gain.
Welcome to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, the weekly show for nomads, work campers, RVers, and entrepreneurs looking to earn a living or build a business while enjoying the RV lifestyle. This week's host is Kimberly Crossland. Let's settle in and enjoy the RV Entrepreneur Podcast, brought to you by RV Life.
Welcome to another episode of the RV Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host for this week, Kimberly Crossland, and I am thrilled to be bringing you my guest, Annette Jalbert. Annette is a counselor and a coach over at Deliberately Designed Life, and she is also an RV park owner. On top of that, she travels often in her RV with her family across the United States and across Canada. It's no secret that she has a huge heart for adventure, but she also has a huge heart for RV entrepreneurs. She has transformed her business into one that can be done from anywhere in the world, and she has done so by helping others be more confident and clear and healthier in their mindset as they also pursue a life of adventure. Annette and I talked a lot about how you can have a healthy mindset while you're out adventuring, while you're seeking the open road, and while you're also building your business. Mindset is everything, and it is so important that we maintain a healthy mindset and that we really nurture it so that we can continue to grow. So I cannot wait for you to listen in to Annette, hear her story, and also learn little nuggets of wisdom from her that I know you're going to take with you for days and weeks and months to come. Before we get into that conversation, though, here is a note from our sponsor.
Attention detail-oriented explorers. Do you crave adventure and thrive in independent work environments? ID Plans seeks data rock stars to travel the country surveying commercial properties. Gain or use your tech skills like laser measuring and 3D cameras to gather data on everything from rooftop HVAC units to parking spaces. Challenge yourself in all weather conditions and enjoy the flexibility of managing your own schedule. This is more than a job. It's a chance to explore new places while putting your skills to the test. Competitive pay per project awaits. Are you ready to map your next adventure? Send your resume and work history to workcamperjob@idplans.com. Don't miss out.
Annette, thank you so much for joining us today. I am thrilled to have you on the RV Life Entrepreneur Podcast. You have such a great story. I've gotten to know you a little bit behind the scenes, and we've had all sorts of things happen with technology. So hopefully they don't happen today. If they do, we're going to roll with it. But before I get too far ahead of myself, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
For sure. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to meet you as well. This has been a fun journey having our paths kind of crisscross back and forth. So Annette Jalbert, I am from Northern British Columbia, Canada. And I kind of am a woman who wears a lot of hats and has very big dreams. So I am a registered clinical counselor. I was a school teacher. I technically still am. But that's not what I practice. And then as well, we are Sticks and Bricks RV park owner. So RV is like in our blood. It's in and out all the time. So so we are currently traveling around the United States. We call ourselves snow chicks in training because we're just a little too young to be a snowbird.
I love that. That's so fun. So you started up in British Columbia, Northern British Columbia at your RV park, and now you're moving your way down? Because I know you were just in Arizona pretty recently, and now where are you located at the time of this recording? Because I know that we're a little bit ahead of schedule here. So where are you guys right now?
Yeah, so right now we are in Arizona. So we did leave
Okay.
northern British Columbia because of weather. We brought our motorhome down to Las Vegas in October and plunked it into a little storage facility so it would be ready for us to jump in and head down to some warmer climate. So we spent some time in California. We spent some time over in the Tucson, your area, in the Tucson area, and then wound our way back up to, we're in Apache Junction currently. And at the time of the recording, we'll be back home running big time in the RV park.
I love that. You have such a balance because you do so much. Like you said, RV is in your blood. So you have the RV park and you manage that now from the road, and you also manage another business, right?
Yes, that is correct. So this year, a little bit different. My beautiful staff has had a lovely little girl added to her family. And so this year, the RV park came on the road with me. So I had to figure out how to navigate it because we've had this dream of living in the RV part time and still being able to work well on the road. Because of our age, we still need to do some work. And because of our businesses, both businesses actually being built up. So my clinical counseling business as well as being built up. So I can't just drop those clients off. So they have to come with me on the road. That's part of the deal when I take them on as clients, is that they have to be able to come on the road.
Yeah, and I think that one of the blessings about the RV lifestyle is that you can take so much on the road. It's just such a beautiful way to stay connected, especially in your line of work where you've got guests staying at your RV park. You have clients who they trust you, they know you, they've opened up to you. That's not an easy relationship just to find anywhere. So being able to continue to show up for them and serve them no matter where you are in the world is really such a gift. So I want to know a little bit more about your RV entrepreneurial lifestyle. Tell us how you balance your days and how you make sure, because right before we hit record, we were talking about how sometimes it can feel like you're doing so much, especially running two different businesses. You're doing so much that it's hard to leave the RV at times, which is not why we pursue this RV entrepreneurial lifestyle. So tell us a little bit about that realization and how you have come to terms with it or how you're approaching it now mentally.
Yeah. And so I want to say, first off, coming to terms with it, because this really is a work in progress. And when I talk to people back home, or even if I'm talking to people in the RV park, this year, I'm calling it my learning how to year. So juggling two businesses while being on the road has been a little bit of a challenge. It does keep me inside of the RV a little more than I would typically like. However, it's short-term pain, long-term gain. So short-term pain is that I'm a lot of hours inside of the RV, but listen, I'm in the RV, I'm on the road. Any other time, it would have meant that I had to stay back home and I had to run the park from back home. And yet now through technology, and I'm going to be really honest, COVID blew the doors open for us to be able to be entrepreneurs on the road. So as much as there is many, many negative things and impacts that have happened through that, I have to tell you, it has been the biggest blessing in disguise for me personally and for both of our companies. So my clients probably in the counseling end probably wouldn't have come on the road with me. They still love to see me face to face, but they totally know that they can still get that support by working online. So I do spend a lot of time in the RV. I was sharing with you a little bit more about the beliefs, like we were talking kind of behind the scenes about beliefs, and I'm teaching in I run a mentorship group while I'm on the road as well. That's part of my counseling practice. So a group of ladies, and it's just all about your mindset, and then kind of unpacking some we did some awareness stuff. This month we did beliefs. Next month we worked on habits, and just kind of rolling through and going through the things that we need to look at ourselves. And so the beliefs was what was the topic. And then I started to realize, like, hey, what's the belief that I'm creating? Because every day I was like, man, I work so many hours and that's all I do. And I'm not getting to be a tourist and I don't get to go outside. I'm not getting to do as much, that negative, just that simple spin that we can get in. And listen, when it's you and your RV, my husband's here, but he kind of gets to go and do things. And so then I get a little bit envious because he's the physical guy in the park during the summer months and I get to be more behind the scenes. And so he kind of has got a little bit more freedom right now. So it does make me a bit envious that I'm like, I'm doing all the things. And but when I started unpacking beliefs with my clients, I was like, unpack them yourself, girl. And so I started to tell myself, what is the story? I need that awareness. What's the story that I'm telling myself? Well, I'm telling myself this is hard, telling myself I'm juggling two businesses, telling myself I'm in the RV all the time and I'm working. And then I realized, well, that I'm creating that belief. And it doesn't take long. A belief is a thought or a string of thoughts that told over a period of time become your reality. And that's what I was creating. But yet, when I took a step back, I'm like, but what was the reality I was looking for? I was looking to be an entrepreneur on the road. So I had a choice. I could stay inside of sticks and bricks businesses to do the work that I do, or I could fulfill the dream of being on the road in our RV and still working. And that's what I'm doing. So that's the story that I need to tell myself. That's the story that I need to believe so that I can see the good. And then realizing too that when you're an entrepreneur on the road, who controls your schedule? You do. So set your schedule up. So that's why I say it still is a work in progress because I'm still learning myself. How do I ideally set my schedule up each day or each week to be able to create pockets of time that I can get out, interact with other people? Because every time I do, and they all ask, how do you guys get to do this so young? When I share that part of my story, it literally lights me up. I'm like, yeah, we are doing this at a younger age. Our friends are all still back home working. So it's that mindset and shifting that mindset so that you don't take yourself down that little rabbit hole of negativity. Oh, poor me. Things are really hard being an entrepreneur. All those stories that we can sometimes get ourselves wrapped up in because we do this by ourselves, isolated or with our partners or whatever. But really, you're a lot of time on your own.
Yeah, I think there's so many good bits about what you just said. I love the recognizing how quickly, first off, like you said, just how quickly we can fall into these belief systems and just how often we're actually putting that soundtrack between our ears of, oh, poor me, and I'm envious of my husband because he's more physical in the park and I'm more behind the scenes, and now he's able to have more, whatever it is. And we can very quickly go down that rabbit hole. But being able to recognize it is how we can also very quickly pull ourselves back out of it and say, intentionally shifting that soundtrack, shifting what we're saying to ourselves and our belief system. I also love how you mentioned about your schedule and really being intentional about that too. Because to me, there's one is intangible and one is somewhat tangible. The schedule part is tangible, where you can decide, I am not going to be inside my RV from 1 to 3. I'm going to go sit by the pool. I'm going to have lunch outside. I'm going to go take the dogs for a walk. Whatever it is to get outside. And you can have that intentionality about how you're living. And then you really are living the RV entrepreneur lifestyle. And you're really getting out there and enjoying wherever you're at, whether you're in Apache Junction, Las Vegas, Canada, wherever it is that the RV takes you, you can really go out and enjoy that. But I also know that us saying that, oh yeah, we recognize it, we pull ourselves back out of it, is easier said than done. I actually today, I wasn't going to share this, but today I posted a story that felt a little bit vulnerable over on my Instagram. And it was like, I woke up having kind of a rough day. Sometimes you just feel these things and you just feel like nothing's wrong, but I just kind of feel today. And so it takes some time to pull yourself out of that funk and just to get back into it. And do you have any tips when you see yourself going down these rabbit holes and those belief systems of saying, hold on, that's not how I want to believe about that's not what I want to believe about my life. That's not how I want to, let those thoughts go through my brain. That's not how I want to feel. Do you have any tips for how to pull yourself out of that funk and just kind of be like, wait a second, this is a really cool life that I have, and I recognize it now.
Yeah, for sure. So are you okay if I just put my counseling hat on for just a minute here? Because
Please do. Yes.
this is the fun stuff. So first off, there's something that I do want to say here. And that is what is really important. So there's a term out there right now called toxic positivity. And so what is super duper important right now is please don't override those feelings with toxic positivity because they're not sustainable. And some days you just need to sit in the muck and know that that's okay. And if you were a client of mine, I would be like, let's talk about what that muck is. And maybe you do need to sit in it. And maybe you do need to allow some of those feelings because, I mean, come on, we are not in positive places all the time. And so the fear right now is because there's so much stuff out there. Social media is just inundating us. And so a lot of people, when they come to me, they feel like they're supposed to have this happy, joy, gleeful, whatever all the time. And I'm like, listen, sister, that is not it. You do need to sometimes sit in that muck. You do need to understand what it's like to experience contrast. You do need to understand what it's like to have negative emotion, because if you don't understand that, you don't actually know how to define positivity. And that to me is extremely important. So I just wanted to preface that some days when you wake up and it's the muck, you just have to ask yourself, why are you there first? And if it's something that you really need to allow yourself to go through, allow it. Here's where the concern comes in. If you're hanging in it for a long period of time, that's the issue. And this is where I put my counseling hat on. So I love I work under really two main modalities. One is called solution focused brief therapy. The second is cognitive behavioral therapy. Solution focus, just really, really brief. We want to look at what you want to achieve. We want to look at where you are, and we want to build that bridge, or that, get you over that gap to be able to get to where you want to go. That's number one. Number two, CBT, as we call it, you're hearing it as a buzzword of mindset and getting that mindset going. So I use those terms very interchangeably. But essentially what it is if you're in that negative story and it's a loop and it's a continuing loop, my job is to help you interrupt the loop. And so to interrupt the loop, you need to gain the awareness that you're in it. You need to ask yourself, how are you feeling? Like, what is that doing to me? Sometimes it's somatic feeling, so in the body. Sometimes it's mind, a story that you're stuck in. So what is it that's happening? And once we can uncover that, and when you're trained to do this, you can do this all by yourself. You don't need me holding your hand. But you look at that and then you ask yourself, how do you want to feel instead? So if you want to feel more positivity, more happiness, I don't want to look through this kind of gray lens. I want to look through something that's more bright and sunshiny, as I like to call it. Then you have to ask yourself, what's the story that you need to tell yourself instead? So very much, if we work back on what I was telling you about the story that I was saying, I had to create the new story. And the new story was, I'm an entrepreneur on the road getting to live out my dreams. And then I can build my other stories based on that. And you can do that very same thing. So when you're feeling kind of that gray over top of you, what do you want to feel instead? So there's a couple little tricks that I like to do. One is, I like to tell, you don't get to be a client without doing written work. And so I like to tell people, write stuff down, because when you're in the mud and you're trying to claw your way out of it, you don't always have the capacity to do that on your own. And so if you have something written, I can send you to that written piece of content and you read it. And that's your reminder. That's what's going to be like, right, that's what I wanted instead. And so I love for my clients to write down those stories. And often those negative spirals are very habitual, and they're often the same story coming over and over. Might look slightly different, but the premise of them is pretty much the same. So if they have a story that they can read, they don't have to think it, because when you're in a negative mindset, it's sometimes really hard to come out of it on your own. So they can read it themselves. They can visualize it. That can elicit, and it really can, when you're visualizing what that new story is, it can elicit body feeling. It can elicit that emotion without it actually happening. That's the beauty of CBT mindset work.
Do you struggle with inadequate cooling in your RV during those sweltering summer months? The issue might be simpler than you think. Did you know that your RV air conditioners are not directly connected to any air ducts in most cases? This common setup drastically reduces their efficiency. Cool RV has engineered a brilliant solution to bridge this gap. Priced at only $84.95 each with free shipping. Dive into the details at coolrv.com. That's cool with a K, rv.com. Podcast listeners can save 5% with code RVLife.
So I like to have that. And then the other thing is, when you wake up, if you know that it is, just kind of a swirling, like, kind of day, be intentional on setting up some intentions or affirmations for what your day is going to look like. So I just got to tell you, I wake up every morning, and this is literally, I think it's been the same line for I can't tell you how many years. I wake up every morning and I'm like, oh, thank God I'm alive. I get another shot to do this, regardless, before I've even done any kind of check in on how I am. Oh, do I have, and I don't tend to wake up and ask myself, do I have any aches and pains? But I know people do. So I need to honor that. I'm just like thinking about, what am I going to do? And so that's kind of how, if you're in that, being very purposeful. There's also strategies where you can actually like physically take yourself to places. So a lot of people find nature, going for a little walk is very helpful to make a mindset shift. Um, if it's a sunny day where you are, getting out in the sunshine is absolutely beautiful. Go sit and sip a cup of coffee or a tea or a glass of water outside, doing things like that. All of those are interrupting the pattern that you have created by being in that downward loop.
I love how you said that about experiencing the contrast too, because it allows you, like you said, to get rid of that toxic positivity that we're so inundated. And I think RV entrepreneurs especially tend to find themselves in these positions because we are on social media talking about our business. So then we get caught up in the scroll and we see all the happy things. And then you also get caught up, because of how Facebook and all the algorithms work. You're met with, they want to keep you on there. So you're met with a dopamine hit of positivity with like a cat gif or whatever it is that's going to make you. I like the chicken reels. That's like my secret love. Give me all the chicken reels. They're just so fun and they make you smile. But then right after, you get something political, especially in this year and this climate that we're in. And then right after that, you get maybe a goat reel or something like that. And it's just this like ping pong of emotion. And we have to be in it because we don't have to be, but a lot of us are, because that's where we're promoting our business. That's where we're told we're supposed to be, online and sharing everything. And I think that when the way that you put this, experiencing that contrast, the algorithm does a fake experience contrast for you. But when you're able to recognize, like, well, some days just aren't going to be the best, and that's okay. I don't have to be rainbows and sunshine and unicorn all the time. Give myself permission for that, but then you get right out of it. And I love your tips, especially about, I'm big on putting pen to paper. Actually, anytime, as you know, I'm not a full-time RVer, but anytime we travel, I have my pen and I have my notebook with me because I love to just write or draw or something. There is power behind having I guess the way you put it was a somatic experience, but that's a little bit different than where I'm going with this. But you have that physical expression of what you're feeling, and you're able to put it on paper and continue to move through. You have absolutely such great tips about how to also change that story and rewrite it and recognize it. So I appreciate you sharing that. And I think from an RV entrepreneurial standpoint too, going back to the business side of things, um, first off, I want to just say thank you for sharing your story and being honest with us, because so often, I'm going to shift a little bit here to more of an entrepreneurial mindset of, so often we kind of catch ourselves in this imposter syndrome. That's a big term that I see popping up all over the place. And I like to call it the cobbler shoe syndrome because, the cobbler has no shoes. Sometimes we know how to help people, but we don't always know how to help ourselves. And so have you found, I know that you just experienced that a little bit with, realizing, hold on, I'm telling myself the wrong story that I don't want to be telling myself. I want to shift what I'm telling myself. Have you experienced that in any other areas of your life, your entrepreneurial life, or are there any tips for how to kind of pull yourself out of those stories as well of like, oh, I'm the wrong person for this, or I'm not doing it the right way?
Yeah, and I think, it doesn't matter who you listen to. I remember a few years ago listening to Tony Robbins, and I mean, that's a guy that, oh my gosh, I read him in the 80s. Awaken the Giant Within, I think was the very first book that I read of his. And seeing him live and thinking, he got up there and he's like, don't kid yourself. I still get it. And I'm like, what? We never grow out of it. So I think just honoring and knowing that it's okay. You are going to have it again, like anything else, as long as it doesn't stay in that loop. Here's the thing that I have to tell you, I'm loving right now about kind of where social media is taking the audience, is there's a lot of conversation about being your authentic self. And you know what? If you are your authentic self, you're not in imposter syndrome. You can't be, because it's who you are. So it's okay to get up and say, today sucks. I mean, if you go back and look on my video, the other day, we were putting our daughter on the plane. She was flying back to Canada. My other daughter sent me 2 videos of our little grandbaby who is 8 months old. Everything sucked that day. I wanted to go home. I wanted to be with my family. There was nothing about, I don't want this entrepreneurial RV lifestyle. I don't want it anymore. That wasn't what it is. I was homesick. It's okay. I literally come out of the shower. My hair was wet. It was all over the place. I'm like, I'm recording. This is me. This is exactly what I'm going through. People, and I even apologized and said, hey, if this is the first video you're watching, you're going to be like, what on earth is this? That was exactly my experience. And I was like, this is the authentic me. This is what I'm waking up and coming out of the shower with. So I think as long as you're being authentic and as long as you're being truthful, when you're out there having those conversations, or even when you're having the conversations inside of your head, you cannot stay in imposter syndrome, but also realizing every single person is going to go through it. So just recognize it. That's all you need to do. It's all about awareness. So just recognize it and ask yourself, is that really true right now? In this exact moment in time, is this really true? Or is this something we're imagining down the road for future? Like, oh, I'm going to be doing this podcast today. What am I going to say? I told you when we got on here, I cannot script stuff. I just need to get out and just say it. Whatever comes, because it's what it is. And it takes a lot of pressure off. And I think that's when imposter syndrome comes in, is when we start putting pressure on ourselves to be, do, or have something or someone be someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really does. I actually just went through this. It's interesting that you said this. And I also love that you highlighted that coming into this interview, we were just like, let's just see where it takes us. And that's what we're doing, which I actually love, because you have so many nuggets of wisdom and I'm just pulling every single one of them. So thank you for sharing so openly. But I just went through this, what you just said about the authenticity. I think it's a little bit of a buzzy word, but there's so much power in it also, that it's buzzy for a reason. It's one of those where people want to be authentic because it does take that pressure off, and it does let you just kind of pull the pressure release valve of yourself and say, okay, I don't have to have it all together. I don't have to have everything perfect. I can just be me. Let me just share my story. And I recently went through that with my own business, where I was like, I need to just take a step back, and I will happily share every single thing that I'm going through. I mean, not every single thing, because the world does not need every detail of my life. But I'll share what I think the world could benefit from, what I felt like I could benefit from, and just the real side of things. We also talked about sometimes we cuss, sometimes, we're not all buttoned up and put together, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know that people, I'll just speak for myself. I know that I would rather go to coffee with someone like you, Annette, where you don't feel like you've got to have the perfect answer to every single question and just be prim and proper and etiquette school and, whatever. Nothing wrong with etiquette school, but you don't always have to show up like that. Let me take a video of myself with my hair wet and not perfectly done, and just tell you I'm homesick. I miss my kids. I miss my family. That is an emotion that we can all relate to. I mean, at some point in
Mhm.
your life, we've all been homesick, and especially in this RV lifestyle, where you're like, I'm having so much fun on the road and would not trade this for the world, but I miss my kids. I miss my
Mhm.
family. I miss
Yep.
being, with the people who get me where I can be my authentic self. So coming back to what we were talking about with the imposter syndrome, if you can just be your authentic self and have that same feeling when you're on the road and away from your family, it's so freeing and it's so powerful. So thank you for shining a light on that. I know. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think that's the big thing, right? I think we gotta be us. And social media is known for highlight reels. It's known for showing the perfect. And I was a high school teacher, and so man, I preached on this long before social media was a big thing. Don't pay attention to your neighbor, because what your neighbor is doing is not your life. And so now that is just so readily available. It's really hard. Like, your neighbor's in your face all the time. And so if that's the eyes that you're going to look through, is that big comparison game. It Listen, this is your journey. You're getting to create it. Even how I'm creating my entrepreneurial journey with RV might not look the same for somebody else. They might not be like, "Oh, yay, juggling two businesses sounds so exciting. Sign me up. I want to do it." It's okay. Do it the way you want to do it. So a fun thing that came from my mentorship group the other day was, one of the girls said to me, Annette, she's like, you make it like I want to get up every morning and see what's going to happen. Like, it's going to be fun. And I'm like, yeah, just imagine, like, you get your little detective hat on and your little magnifying glass and your little sleuth coat. And every day you're out there looking, what's this life going to be like? And imagine how much more fun it would be to go through life like that, instead of going through life comparing to what the guy in the RV next to you is doing, or the guy with the RV that's down the road. Comparison to help you grow is one thing. Comparison to shrink you, completely different.
Oh my goodness. Please turn that into a quote, put it on Instagram, and I'll share the heck out of that one because I love
Eh,
it. It's true. And I think that we also get caught up in this like comparison syndrome is so bad. And I probably have said it myself, but really comparison to help you grow is a good thing. When you can look at a friend and say, wow, I like how you're showing up. I appreciate your positivity. Annette, I love what you're saying. I want to have more of that in my life. That's a good thing. But then when you're like, oh, I'm not like that, so I'm a failure, that's totally bad. And that's probably not the direction we want to go down. And so having that healthy comparison syndrome is a really good way to approach it. So when you do look on and you're scrolling through and saying, oh my goodness, they just went to Utah and I've always wanted to go to Utah. That's kind of maybe now you're adding it to your list of where you want to go. And that's your little detective work of, oh, this is where I want my journey to go. And that's a cool thing to do. You're not beating yourself up because you haven't been there yet. You're planning it so you can get there because that's a growth season. So I think that's so powerful. Love that. I'm going to go back and replay that and should have written that one down, but I was
Me
just
too.
soaking it up. Well, good
I'll
thing we're
catch it when
recording.
we listen.
There we go. I appreciate that. All right. Well, you have
Oh.
talked about your mentorship circle. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because I imagine at this point, more people want to soak up all these little nuggets of wisdom that you have, and they want to be part of this swirl where they can feel inspired all the time. So tell us a little bit about what that looks like.
Sure. So I call it your Grow Squared mentorship. And so I have to be honest here. I'm sure your audience has some men in it, but this is for the ladies. So it is growing grateful, resourceful, resilient, open and optimistic, worthy women. Grow Squared mentorship. And so the idea behind it is that I want to provide simple strategies. I don't want to add to your load, but yet nothing changes if nothing changes. So I give some simple strategies each month. We have 2 calls a month. Everything's done via Zoom. First call is me teaching, and then second call is what we call the question and answer hot seat accountability coaching. We do some goal setting so that over the next month you are working on whatever it is that you want to work on, and then you're applying those simple strategies to your life. So as I said, the first month we worked on awareness. Is brand new. We're only in month 3 now. So we did awareness. So that was what they did. I asked them questions, and then each day they were gaining awareness, doing some reflection work. You don't get to be a client of mine unless if you can do journaling, because from the theoretical end of counseling psychology, there's a lot of proof on the benefit of writing. And so then the next month we challenged our beliefs and did some work around that and unpacking them and looking at them, because sometimes our beliefs are habitual. Sometimes they're imprinted on us from other people. Sometimes we've brought them up from genetics from when we were very young. And so there's a lot there to unpack. And so that's what we've been working on for the last month. And so, yeah, we jump on a call a couple times a month. We've got an open Facebook group. People post their questions in there. It's been a lot of fun. It's a pretty small group right now. As I said, it's just launched, but we're having fun with it. And it's just going to organically grow as it needs to organically grow. And so this is for people who some of the clients or some of the people in the group are one-on-one clients as well, but there's a lot of benefit as well from being in a group and listening to other people and getting other ideas. I love being in mastermind groups and listening to other entrepreneurs or listening to other women in business or, law of attraction, spirituality. I'm doing a lot of stuff personally for my own personal growth right now. And so I just love being in group and hearing other people's stories, much like what we're doing right now. So huge benefits. And so I've decided that that's what I want to launch. And then I have to launch things right now that are going to allow me to continue to grow this RV lifestyle. So long term for us will be that eventually Sticks and Bricks will be able to go into the hands of somebody else who can take that beautiful business and flourish it even more than we have been able to. And we will be more and more on the road and less planted into one place. I've always said grass doesn't grow under my feet. And so there's a reason for that.
Oh, that's so good. So good. And I love how you described your journey alongside it, your entrepreneurial journey and your RV lifestyle journey, and how you're helping others with the same type of pursuit of their dreams. I think it's really awesome the way that you're showing up. Thank you for coming on. Let us know, where can we find you?
For sure. So this is my funny. So on the Facebook, as I like to call it, you will find Annette Jalbert, Deliberately Designed Life. On the Instagram, it is, I guess my kids tell me it's the gram mom. It's not the Instagram. So on the gram, it's Annette Jalbert _DDL. And then my website is AnnetteAnneJalbert.com. And so we're going to pop that into the show notes because I realize now here's another growth opportunity. Man, why did I pick something so long for a website? But it's done. DeliberatelyDesignedLife.com as well will take you to the same website. And on there, you can click a contact and have a call with me. You can see what I'm up to. We've only tapped on 2 of the things. I have a lot of other things that I'm in the works and doing as well. And that's not for the RV lifestyle. So, but you'll get to see a lot of that and it'll kind of show you a little bit about who I am. But what you're hearing right now, this is me. I'm the same all the time. It's just who I am.
I love it. And I appreciate that so much because it's so valuable and it's so wanted and it's so needed. So thank you for showing up fully as you. And I absolutely will put all of those links in the show notes. You can just go click on them. You don't have to worry about how long it is. But I also think it's great that you said it out loud. I'm sure plenty of people are also sitting here typing it into their phone as they're listening and going to find you. I know I'm certainly following you. I have been following you and I'll continue to follow you. So again, thank you for coming on fully as you. And it's great to chat with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Wasn't that such an inspiring conversation with Annette? She, like I said, is such a wealth of information. A little bit of wisdom goes a long ways. And she just continuously gives us those nuggets that we can hold on to, put between our ears, and remind ourselves of every single time we start to lack that confidence, lack that clarity, lack that conviction in the direction that we're choosing. It's so easy to get off course. And Annette openly and vulnerably shared her story about how she has felt that same feeling of imposter syndrome, how she's also felt those same feelings of, oh my goodness, what have I done? I'm stuck inside this RV and I really want to be outside seeking adventure. I love how she talks about she intentionally takes breaks to make sure that she is soaking up all that this life has to offer. And she really embraces the RV lifestyle while also embracing entrepreneurship. I learned so much from her, and I know you probably did too. So I'm sure you want to go and follow her and continue to connect with her and learn from her. And the best way to do that is on her website. Make sure you sign up for her newsletter or go follow her online. I put the links below in the show notes. You'll definitely want to go say hi to her and reach out and get to know more about Annette. She is just such a wonderful person. I'm so grateful that we had the chance to have this conversation. I'd also love to hear what you thought about this episode. So please come over to the RV Entrepreneur Podcast Facebook group and share your ideas with me. Share what stood out to you in this episode so I can also learn from you and we can learn from each other and remind ourselves of these important lessons as we move through this entrepreneurial journey. So come on over, share those nuggets of wisdom. Be sure to tag me in the comments so I can make sure that I see your post and your comments and your ideas. And I cannot wait to continue the conversation with you over there. Until next time.
RVing is more than just a hobby. It's a community. When you join RV Life, you're not just gaining access to a suite of tools. You're becoming part of a vibrant community of fellow RV enthusiasts. Share your experiences, learn from others, and make your RV journey even more memorable. Visit RVlife.com to become a part of our community and start making connections that last a lifetime.